again this time around. And even a few days ago, when it was recently, he on the thing again. Let me see if I can find it here. He on the TV again. Listen to me. Listen to
the man who driving the boat, who was drunk, and the first mate who was also drunk and under the influence, and who were in charge of the boat, and who apparently were not at the wheel at the time, they must go free. Which part of planet Earth are these people living?
Which part of planet Earth this jackass will we give Attorney General living? Which part? I'm going to go into that matter in greater detail. You're talking about a boat that has to travel over 24 hours in the river and the sea. 24 hours at a minimum, 24 hours. And this jackass expect that the one person can be there all the time. That is what he expects. That is what he's saying. And imagine this man is the Attorney General for Guyana. Can you imagine that? He is the Attorney General. Man without reason. A man so dunce that is unbelievable. And again, he's commenting, he thinking, this matter is sub judice. The men are charged, 3 men are charged with murder. And the Attorney General can jump on NCN, that was the thing Tuesday night, and make these type of statements. These type of biased statements. The Attorney General of Guyana, Anil Nanlal, SC, MP, can do that. Where are we as a country? Ian Learning, in the previous case, in this matter referring to, he was rebuked by the court when the decision, I think the gentleman that died, the judge that died, right? Justice Witt, publicly rebuked the Attorney General for leaking information. Then that same Attorney General came out and he showed the blame on some staff. He threw the blame on a staff. Said, well, the staff, the thing. And Justice Witt, the late Justice Witt, had to make the point that the court has to consider seriously whether they're going to allow, how they're going to treat with matters relating to Guyana. Right? Same Anil Nanlal. Commented then. Come again. Imagine that. He had learning. He had get brick in it. Because notwithstanding what was said earlier by the late Justice Witt, this man come now Tuesday night on Issues on the News, the propaganda program, and commenting on a matter that is sub judice, a matter before the court. The Attorney General of Guyana commenting on the matter before the court that the men were drunk and asked other thing he talking there. How can these men now get a fair hearing? I no liar. I am not liar. I like to say that up front. But I believe that I'm sure that the lawyers representing these 3 men who are charged with murder, no less, they're charging them with murder. I'm going to go into that next. They're charging them with murder. And the Attorney General of Guyana, Anil Nanlal, SC, MP, a man who got charged with thieving law books, right? He can go on TV while this matter is sub judice. They say he's a senior counsel. He's a SC. They say he's a SC, but they haven't done the spelling there. That is just the first 2 words or first 2 letters of the word that he is. He's not only they say SC, but they haven't completed the spelling of the word. Can go on national TV, NCN, and make comments like that. Right? Can make comments like that. God help us. God help us in Guyana. Right? God help us in Guyana. So the story is, the matter now goes back to the magistrate to continue the proceedings. And let me tell you all this, despite what the SC with the other 3 letters saying, the matter gonna get in the magistrate court. And if you listen to I try to listen carefully to what the judge said, at the CCJ. It ain't done there. It is not finished. So the jump around, it ain't finished. It has a long way to go. So it is now back to the magistrate. She's now, I think, senior magistrate, Judy Lashman, to continue that proceedings, right? And then I'm sure that when that is finished, you get more lyrics, as they will say. You get more lyrics. But it is sad when an attorney general of a country, and they say he's a SC, well, the SC is only the first two letters of the word. That's what I say. He's a SC. I would add on the rest U and T, because based on what he is demonstrating. Again, let me understand what we have, you know. Let's understand. These men are charged with the capital offense of murder. These three men and the MV Borima, they are charged with murder. And the Attorney General of Ghana can go on the national television and say the things that he said. The Attorney General can go on TV and talk about how the men did drunk and all sort of thing. Can you imagine such prejudice? Right? Can you imagine that? Well, let me say this, you know. I have a part of the presentation I need to make. I hope I get time. I try to get time this afternoon to go through it, because these men have options, and I hope that the lawyers will pursue all options available to them. I am no liar. I was always said that I'm not a liar. I believe that I'm widely read and experienced enough to comment on certain matters. Right? I might be wrong, but at least I can comment on those matters, as I will do in a while. This same matter I will do in a while. So we have, Cheryl, that is the continuation of this spelling. Now, let me continue with the same matter now. I have some notes. I'm going to read what I have to say, what I have written, and then I'm going to explain my thinking. Right? I say here, I'm talking about the irrational decision by the Director of Public Prosecution to charge the captain, first mate, and good superintendent with murder. So she charged these people with murder. And I remember my in my training days and the police's training, and always I said murder is, you have to show that they have malice aforethought. Murder is that you have to show that the people set out to kill, or their reckless act would have resulted in murder, something to that effect. Or the Director of Public Prosecutions, Shalimar Ali Haq, has decided that, having regards to the circumstances of this case where this boat sank, killing dozens of people, scores of people, that the appropriate charge is murder. That is what she has decided. Right? All right, let me go. Now, you know, there is a matter. There's a matter that went to when Ian Chan was the Chief Justice. Ian Chan was the Chief Justice, and a matter went before him with Henry Green, the late former commissioner. Matter went before Chan. Green was to be charged with raping a young lady. A young lady claimed that he raped her, and the matter went to well, let me try to recollect properly. The matter was investigated, and it was, I think they had decided that they were going to charge Henry Green, the late former commissioner, with rape. But then Green got word, and he moved to the High Court. And the acting Chief Justice at the time, Ian Chan, presided in the matter. And Ian Chan made a ruling. Basically, it's something very instructive for them to read. It is there as a precedent. And I have something here. I'm going to read parts of it. I'm going to direct you so you can go there and find it and read it for yourself. They said Green could escape rape charge. Chief Justice ruled DPP's advice irrational. Here what the headline is. I can't remember which paper is this, but it is dated on March 30th, 2012. And it says, and I think it's Skycho News, because the person who wrote it is Latoya Giles. So Green could escape rape charge. Chief Justice ruled DPP advice irrational. And it goes, Chief Justice Ian Chang yesterday ruled that the Director of Public Prosecution's recommendation that Commissioner of Police Eddie Green be charged with rape was irrational. Chang read out a 65-page decision yesterday to a packed courtroom consisting of lawyers, reporters, and members of women's rights group. A few weeks ago, the Chief Justice had directed the DPP to show cause why a writ an order of certiorari should not be issued to bring up to the Honorable Court and quash the advice tendered by the Director of Public Prosecutions given on or about the 3rd day of February 2012 to the Commissioner of Police Acting Leroy Bramell and Assistant Commissioner of Police Law Enforcement Silal Prasad, or either of them, to institute a charge of rape against Green. Secondly, an order rule nisi or prohibition directed to the Commissioner of Police Acting Leroy Bramell and Assistant Commissioner of Police Silal Prasad, he was Assistant Commissioner of Law Enforcement Silal Prasad, to show cause why a writ or order of prohibition should not be issued, preventing them from acting on the said advice of the Director of Public Prosecutions or from instituting the said charge of rape against the applicant. That was Green. Green is the applicant, right? They say on the grounds, listen to the grounds, this is what the late Ian Chan saying. On the grounds that the said advice by the Director of Public Prosecutions is irrational, unreasonable, unfair, unlawful, unconstitutional, null and void, and of no legal effect. That was Ian Chan, the late Ian Chan, saying this. Remember, let me point out off the bat that in this case that I'm reading with the Henry Green case, Henry Green was able to move to the court to preempt the filing of the charge, so he wasn't charged, right? So in this case, these men are charged, but some of the things that were said then are applicable, and I would hope that the lawyers representing these men will go into that. It says here, let me read further, on December last year, that is December 2011, right? A 33-year-old mother of two had dropped a bombshell when she alleged that she was raped by Commissioner of Police after she had sought his assistance in a police matter that she was engaged in. After weeks of investigation conducted by independent investigators from the Jamaican Constabulary Force, and amidst much speculation and anxiety, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Shalimar Aliak, advised that Green be charged with rape. But yesterday, that would have been on the 29th of March 2012, but yesterday, Chief Justice in his ruling said, quote, while the complainant did set out circumstances which unequivocally point to Green's commission of the offense of rape against her, it strains one's credulity to believe that she, succumbing to the verbal pressure and any threatening conduct by Green, came out of a car and entered the hotel room without seeking to run away or escape from Green, even though he had expressly made it clear to her his intention of having sexual intercourse with her, end of quote. Also taken into consideration in the Chief Justice's ruling were statements given by two persons of the hotel. According to the owner of the hotel, Maxwell Tom, who is now deceased, Green and the woman entered the room calmly. And after they entered the room, he didn't hear anything which suggests that she was protesting. Chan said that after the two left the hotel and were driven in a car, Green was talking to her as though they were lovers. The Chief Justice said that the question must be asked, quote, why would the applicant soon after assaulting and having forcible intercourse with the complainant speak to her as though they were lovers, end of quote. More questions were raised when Green asked if she was hungry. Y'all bear with me, we understand, you know where I'm coming from. Green asked if she was hungry. The complainant in her statement, Green then drove to Regent Street, opposite Gael gas station, where persons were selling food. At his request, the woman exited the vehicle and went to find out what was being sold. She returned and told him that chow mein and pepper pot, strange combination. Well, it's chow mein and pepper pot, so two different dishes. Chow mein and pepper pot were being sold. According to her statement, she said that she went back, purchased the two boxes of food, and returned to the vehicle. The Chief Justice said that surely our conduct in this ex post facto event could hardly be viewed as the conduct of a distressed victim of violence and rape, while Green's conduct can hardly be viewed as that of a person who had just violated her. According to the woman's court documents, Green subsequently drove her home, issuing threats to her life in the process. The complainant stated that Green told her that he would know if she visited any doctor in the country. Even after the night that the complaint alleges that she was raped, the woman met Green and accepted money from him. Here the street partner were coming to the thing. I gotta give you the background, Gotta get the background. Further, Chan said that while it may be true that the credibility and reliability of the complainant's story and the admissibility of the contents of the statement of other witnesses could have been adequately dealt with the criminal trial process, the court finds that the circumstances of the case were exceptional. More so, he said, it requires an insightful analysis of unusual circumstantial evidence on the part of the DPP, which was not done, and if done, to pass the realistic prospect of conviction test. Chan said this case was one which required application of the evidentiary test by the DPP before advising prosecution against the applicant. The Chief Justice said that it was a case in which such misunderstanding of our functions as a prosecutorial authority had to be corrected by way of judicial review in the public interest. Let me read that back. This is what the Chief Justice at the time, Ian Chan, the late Ian Chan, said about the Director of Public Prosecutions, current Director of Public Prosecution. He said, the Chief Justice said that it was a case in which such misunderstanding of our function as a prosecutorial authority had to be corrected by way of judicial review in the public interest. Justice Sand said that the case was an appropriate occasion to debunk the pervasive fallacy that the decision or not to prosecute rests solely on the answer to the question as to whether there is a prima facie case, and that the reliability of the contents of statement made by police in a criminal investigations is within the exclusive province of the jury. Listen carefully. Quote, the low rate of prosecutorial success and the heavy backlog of criminal matters pending hearing may well have a functional relationship with this fallacy, which seems to permeate the mindset of prosecutorial authorities in Guyana. The decision whether or not to prosecute is of fundamental importance in criminal justice system, particularly in an accusatorial system which obtains in Guyana. It is a very important stage in the criminal process since it involves far-reaching consequences to those affected by it, end of quote. The consequences for a defendant frequently do involve irretrievable loss of reputation or employment, disruption of family relationships, substantial financial expenditure, and even deprivation of pre-trial liberty. The consequences for the victim of the crime, where an innocent decision to not prosecute is made, can be equally damaging. As such, Justice Chan stated, it behoves prosecutorial authorities, such as the DPP, to perform their functions in such decision making carefully and consistently with rationality and legality and with prosecutorial fairness. Then they said, meanwhile, Attorney at Law Neil Boston, who represented Green, told the media yesterday that the charge recommended against the commissioner is based on irrationality. And if the decision is irrational, the Chief Justice has the jurisdiction to set it aside. He explained that it doesn't matter how clamorous is the call made by John Public, that there should be a public trial. A public trial ought not to take place if there is not a realistic prospect of conviction. Listen to this part. This is what Senior Counsel Neil Boston said. A public trial ought not to be taken if there's not a realistic prospect of a conviction. Now, we have a lot to unpack there. Right? Because as we try to draw the parallel, we have to recognize that in this case, Green was able to go to court and get the Chief Justice to intervene to say that no charge should be filed. The charge of rape that they were contemplating should not be filed. In this case, I'm talking about with the MV Marimo case with these sailors. They have already been charged. Speedily, they're charged with murder. They are charged with the capital offense of murder, right? So they are remanded. But I still believe, and I'm a layman, you know, I still believe that this is a matter that should be taken to the court for review. Don't wait. I believe that the decision to charge these men with murder is an irrational decision from the Director of Public Prosecution, irrational. And I believe the lawyers representing them should take it to court. Should take it to court. Let me see what will happen. But let me tell you something more. As I said, should move to the High Court for a review of this irrational decision by the DPP. I believe the decision of the DPP is highly irrational to charge these men with murder. Meanwhile, what can be considered the main evidence is we need to see the main evidence. They have not lifted the boat yet, and they are talking about leaving it there and all sort of thing. This is if you to go by them, we're talking about a major crime scene, right? They don't want to lift it now. They are going around to get people to say, well, they want to make some for it to remain there. If men are charged with murder following the sinking of this vessel, tell me in God's name, how are you going to decide to prosecute for murder and not try to lift to see what more evidence you can find? I should say more because I don't think they have any. You're going to get witnesses. You're going to get statement from witnesses, I believe they have, from people who survived, people who are on the boat. But what can they tell you? What real evidence can they tell you? They're going to give some opinion and they're not experts. So you can see right away, anytime they come with any expert, any opinion, the defense counsel are going to chew them up. They are not experts. They can say what they saw, what they feel. They can say so. But when they're going to come to speculation, it looks like peas they're going to get. That is what we're going to get in this case, right? And I'm saying, as I've said here, I am of the view that the lawyers representing the accused persons should move to the High Court for a review of the irrational decision of the DPP. I believe, this is my view, it is highly irrational for the DPP to recommend a charge of murder in this case. I remember the definition for murder since I was since I was a trainee. The unlawful killing of a human being by another human being with malice aforethought. I think I remember the definition right. Murder is the unlawful killing of a human being by another human being with malice aforethought. You have to have malice aforethought. I mean, the fineries in the law will tell you other things, but that was the main thing that we were taught. You have to have malice, right? So you're suggesting, and of course we in some cases, because even if you talk about gross negligence, my little reading and my little teaching tell me, give me gross negligence, don't all we can among the murder. You catch a manslaughter charge, a lesser charge, but to charge with these people with the capital offense of murder, based on the evidence you have, you didn't even pick up the boat yet. The boat is there. They're trying to leave it below. Now, how do you leave this boat below and charge these men for murder? Where are you going to get the evidence from? You're going to get evidence from survivors. What can they tell you? What can they tell you? That the boat went down? What are they going to tell you? That the boat is taken in water? If the boat is taken in water, is the responsibility of the crew. Having regards to the fact, too, that many crew members, many of their colleagues died on this vessel. Many of the colleagues died on the vessel. And it doesn't escape me the ethnicity of the three men who were charged. You know, you see, this is what we got to look at these things in Guyana. It has not escaped me. The ethnicity of the men who have been charged has not escaped me, right? Yeah, because they are survivors too. Those men are lucky to be alive. They are lucky to be alive. And when you get across, like the Attorney General tell you, all sort of thing, commenting on the matter about the, look, let me don't set up the blood pressure over here, right? Now, let me say this. This is not a matter going to end today. We're going to come back. Now, I say, I am, as I said, the law should move to the High Court to challenge this irrational decision of the DPP to have these men charged with the offense of murder, right? Engage in a legal process, can be challenging financially and otherwise. For them to engage in a legal process can be challenging financially and otherwise. Therefore, I'm suggesting, right? I don't know if it's the family or whoever, a defense fund should be established. You're talking about GoFundMe, you're talking about MMG, you're talking about the local bank accounts, you're talking about Cash App, Zelle, PayPal, and all other ways so that people can contribute. It is unfair. It is unfair. And then you get an inquiry, which I'm going to talk about. You have an inquiry. You've set up a commission of inquiry, but you're gone. And then the DPP tell you, well, it could run parallel. In other words, you can have a trial in the court, while at the same time, you have a commission of inquiry. You're going to wait on the commission of inquiry to say, to make recommendations and so on. But the DPP rush out and recommend a charge of murder, a charge of murder. So those men are remanded because, as a general rule, you get charged with murder, you get parked up. You're going to be parked up for a long time. You're going to be parked up. So that is why I say that the lawyers representing these people shouldn't wait. Move to the High Court. We know the wicked set, we know all of that. We know the wicked set. But you have to exhaust all possibilities for your client. All possibilities. And then we say, this last part where they say, the statement by the government that they will consult with families of the person who are missing and presumed to be trapped in the sunken vessel about the possibility of leaving the vessel at the bottom of the ocean and establishing a memorial. What nonsenseness is that? Men are charged with murder. You have a duty and a responsibility to bring up that vessel. I would suspect that is key and critical evidence in this murder charge that you gave these people. So you've charged them with murder, and you're suggesting that you're going to consult with families with a view to having the vessel remain where it is. These people can't be real. These people cannot be real. Cannot be real. One would have thought that you will make every effort to bring that vessel up, because I suspect that you have a lot of evidence on the vessel. For example, people complain about the state of the engine. They complain about all of that. They complain about the state of the vessel itself, rusted and leaking. We have seen videos about that. And you try for hide thing now, everything on left from right there. And while men are charged with murder, no less, something got wrong, man. Something got wrong. The mere thought, the mere contemplation of leaving that vessel there speaks volumes. The vessel must be brought up. The vessel is supposed to be a major, major crime scene. Because up to now, you don't know how many persons have perished in this vessel. You don't know. And I get a strong suspicion that even when the vessel come up, you will not have a definitive figure. Because they didn't know how many persons were on board. Because we are hearing now that you have Venezuelan families who are there. A lot of people who just pay and go on. A lot of people who might have pope went on the vessel. So it's difficult for them to come to an exact figure. I think they're using 170 something now. Bishop Egil, the bishop, they tell us that what he give a figure. He give a figure. We can't even remember the figure that he give now. 100 and something, and then 17 sailors, something like that. And then he come and say, they jump out, he run out very definitively and give him figure. That's the boat was not this. Let me see if I find it there. But he come and tell us, say, man, I don't know how you're going to charge yet. Listen to him. Listen to him.
The boat was not overloaded by passengers or by cargo. There was no engine problem or any mechanical problem. Even the survivors who made videos from the hospital, they're telling you what happened. And it had nothing to do with overload and boat taken in water. It had to do with the type. Please be advised that the MV Burima is licensed to carry 284 tons of cargo. The cargo manifest shows that we had 268 tons, way below the cargo load. Secondly, the MV Burima is licensed to carry 397 passengers, and we only had 116 passengers on board. The misinformation of overloading as the cause of this incident must be dealt with for what it is. Misinformation and something to create panic and public mischief, and we debunk that in the very strongest terms.
That is Egil, the Scalia bishop, the bishop. Mark come and telling a lot of lies and then come back and say, oh, the information you get. That's if a cover up, because I'm sure if a proper investigation is done in terms of the condition of the vessel and all of that, the government is liable, and that is what they're ducking from. Because the boat is owned by the government, and they are complaints. The boat is 80-something years old. 80-something years old. I learned, they're saying, yesterday I read somewhere, somebody told me, I can't remember which, that they don't want it come up, and the reason why they don't want it come up, because they add a lot of load on the vessel, far in excess of what it should have carried, right? Where they are supposed to have some outreach in the area there, and things were sent. Things were put on the vessel to go steal and all sort of thing, overload the vessel and send it there. They overloaded the vessel because they were looking at getting materials there to some outreach that they were supposed to have. That is what is being said. That is what is being said, and all those things should be examined. All those things. And then it says that the government will consult with families of the persons who are missing and presumed to be trapped in the sunken vessel about the possibility of leaving the vessel at the bottom of the ocean and establishing a memorial. What nonsense is that? Men are charged with murder. And it's a jokey charge because they name the persons who, what do you think? So let me try to pick it up back here. They name the persons, I think the police legal advisor, name the persons who they said charge, and then they're charged with 72 count of murders. The 72 persons are named, and others unknown. That is what they say. Others unknown. You're charging people with murder of persons unknown? What, I can't tell you, what nonsense this is that? Persons unknown? Or you will kill persons who are unknown? So they have no real interest in bringing up the vessel because they know if they bring up the vessel, the liability will become even more pronounced. Because it's an old boat, they get walking there, and they load up the boat. They load up the boat because they understand that instructions were given to take this up and take without any consideration for the safety of the passengers. Instructions were passed, right? I say here too, since the 3 men are charged with the capital offense of murder, the vessel must be considered a crime scene. You have men charged with murder, and you're thinking about leaving this major piece of evidence below water. These people can't be right, can't be thinking right, and that's what I'm saying. I know a lot of these lawyers and so on listen to this program. I am no liar, but I have years and years of policing experience. How do you charge men with murder? That they sail this boat recklessly and people have died, and they said that you're leaving it at the bottom of the ocean. You're bringing it up to try to get other evidence when people are claiming that it's only one engine they walk in and that's other problem. You are not bringing it up to establish the truth of the matter. They don't want the truth to be established. That is clear. They don't want the truth to be established. Let me move on. As I said, since the men are, I have a note to say, since the men are charged with murder, which is the capital offense, the penalty still in Guyana, the capital offense, the vessel must be considered a crime scene. The vessel is a crime scene, And so therefore, how do you leave that critical piece of evidence at the bottom of the ocean? How do you leave it there? That ain't making no sense to me. How can you leave it there? And don't tell me it cannot be salvaged. It can be, but I get a strong belief they don't want it to be salvaged. Because if they salvage it, you can skin them up. The vessel itself, the condition of the vessel itself, just skin them up. So they are contemplating now leaving it there. And then I hear them walking around with paper for people to sign, say they don't want, the relatives of people who are missing and presumed dead, they don't mind if it leaves. It must come up. They must bring up the vessel. They must bring the vessel, or they must try to push it somewhere where it can be gone into and properly examined, because there's a suspicion that there are dozens and dozens of bodies trapped in that vessel. And even though the bodies, the flesh and so on may be decayed, you're going to get enough evidence to show how many persons might be there. You get enough evidence. I see that on the things that they're burning people, they're finding bodies and burning. They don't want people to know, because people are suggesting. People know the vessel. And who were survivors are suggesting that maybe well over 200, they're giving you a figure of 170 something. But they don't know. They can't tell you how many people are there, because they have admitted when the first the survivors, they had 70 something or something, 30 something of the survivors were not listed on the manifest. Almost 50% of those people who were rescued were not listed on the manifest. And if we were to extrapolate, it simply means that you have a lot of people who are trapped below, who are dead and trapped below there, who are not listed on the manifest. Although you know the correct figure. It's a whole set of slackness, and don't blame the people up walking on the selling. You have to blame the government. It's them own the boat. You have to blame Ejil. You have to blame Indar. Right? Them are the ones who are responsible. Vicarious liability. That's something I learned a long time ago. They can't divorce themselves from responsibility, as they are trying to do. They are responsible. And you know, the sad part, let me tell you this, because this commission of inquiry that is sworn yesterday, I can't have much faith in them. Can't, because when you see, I don't know if I got time for going to this afternoon, but when you see some of the things that are being stated of some of these members, the first thing that struck me, let me understand, I get tremendous policing experience, right? Tremendous policing experience. And from the time they name these people so quickly, I asked myself, how would they know all this thing about these people so quickly? Well, they had them on standby? How would they know so quickly? And it's now being revealed that one man in particular, the man actually live in Guyana. They're claiming the man is he might be far. The man live in Guyana. The man is a Guyanese, and he lives here. He get Guyana passport and all that. In labor time, he was given a passport. And there is a suggestion that he might have been the one who then told him about these other people. So it's a cook-up from the beginning. It's a cook-up. It's a cook-up you get going there. This cook-up you get, and this cook-up is an ITEL cook-up. It can get obstacles inside. It's a plain cook-up. Easily you see through this cook-up. You see through this cook-up, right? They say, for example, you charge 3 men. The good superintendent was not on board the vessel, and he is charged with murder. The good superintendent, the man who perhaps responsible for the loading, he was not on the vessel, but he is charged with murder. Then it simply means, as I said, the prosecutor is alleging that the good superintendent who loaded the vessel, the loading of the vessel is the major factor in this case, because this man was not he caused the vessel. I guess the good superintendent, the man who loaded the vessel, he is charged with murder, along with the captain and I think some other man who was on the boat. This thing seems so irrational. It seems to me so irrational. They're asking to get scapegoat to say how we charge and believe that attention will be removed from this matter. But over 100 people there, the attention will come off it. So this thing made news all over the Caribbean and further afield. Attention is not going to come off of it. And I'm hoping that all right-minded persons led by the people in the opposition will make sure that this matter is kept at the front page, in front, from the front burner all the time. because the government owns the boat. Government owns the boat, so the government can't escape liability and responsibility. They can't. They got something called vicarious liability, vicarious responsibility. Them own the boat. If you own the boat, you have to make sure that proper systems are in place for the boat to operate safely. Clearly, from what we have seen, that wasn't done. So how are you going to duck out of it? How are you going to duck out? How are you keeping Ejil and Indar there? Yeah, 3 men charged with murder, 3 men charged with murder. And you're telling me that Ejil and Indar, who have responsibility to remain in office? You telling me they must remain in office? And let me compliment all those persons who turned up last night in front of Ejil's home to demonstrate. That is what you have to have. Turn up in front of Ejil's home and demonstrated last night. Whether he was there or not, I'm not too sure. But Cromwell, let me tell you this, and this is not me encouraging nobody to break the law. I'm a law-abiding citizen. But you should make sure everywhere he goes, he and the next one, everywhere they go, you should be there to demonstrate. Everywhere they go, you should be there to demonstrate. And let me say this before it escapes me. I have so many things to talk about in this matter. Last night, the people turned up in front of Ejil's home. The people from all the opposition parties I saw. I saw APNU, members of parliament and other members. I saw the WIN leader, who is the opposition leader, was there. I saw other political parties were there. And I got to compliment them for the type of unity they have shown in this matter. Comrade, you have to be relentless. You can't stop. Can't stop. Hope it's not a one-night thing, right? And let me tell you, you got to give them the Gadrach treatment. Y'all know what is the Gadrach treatment? I was Commander A Division with the Gadrach thing. And Winston Felix, my former commissioner and friend, was the commissioner. And when the people turn up at Gadrach Job early in the morning, the late Debbie back on them, they used to call Winston. And then Winston would call me, and we send the police there to maintain order. To maintain order. Because you can't stop people from protesting. Once they do so within the confines of the law. And then Judge, he liar, he complained that the beating drum, which is considered nice instrument, and he showed they didn't get permission for nice instrument, and then the people continue without beating drum. They're following the law. They're following the law. They sing the Sankey and they sing all them things as they did last night. I know, let me tell you this, because I looked at the thing from very early last night. The people were singing and so on. And then I saw the commander, who is my good friend, one of his students and so on. He went there and he tell them that I think they were loud. They got to quiet down. Nonsense, commander, nonsense. The law is clear. They weren't using any noisy instrument. The law says that if you want to use a noisy instrument at a meeting, then you have to get permission for that. But nowhere in the law, people shouting, even if the mouth big like me on, that can be considered noisy instrument. Can be considered noisy instrument. You might want to look at some stage as disorderly behavior, but that can't be considered disorderly conduct either. That cannot. So the people were there and they were singing and they were swan, and then later on they made speeches and so on. All I would advise them, I know they have liars among them, right? Make sure you don't use no loudela. Make sure you don't use no public address system, because if you only do that, you're going to charge, because the law says that you have to have permission to use noisy instrument at the meeting, right? You got to get permission. And let me tell you further. In terms, if you're going to hold a public meeting, you're going to hold a public meeting, you give notification. Let me understand. The people say you got to seek permission. You give notification to the person in charge of the division that you intend to keep a meeting. You make an application for the use of noisy instrument. You don't have to make application to keep a public meeting. Public Order Act 503, I think it is. Let me repeat that. You don't have to make application, or you don't have to seek permission to keep a public meeting. That's what the law says. You give notification of your intention to keep a public meeting. If you intend to use a noisy instrument, loud ailer and them type of thing, then you have to seek permission to use the noisy instrument. And then the law goes on to tell you the type of regulation, because if there's another meeting within a certain distance, the police can deny you permission and all that. But nowhere in the laws, the Public Order Act 503, I think it is, says that you got to get permission to keep a public meeting. You give notification for a public meeting. You seek permission to use noisy instrument, loudspeaker and them type of thing, jukebox and so on. That is what the law says. So please be guided accordingly. I know they got a lot of liars and all these people. Be guided accordingly. Right? Now let me move on. I say here, again, how do you prove all sort of things they're trying to prove put on this? How do you prove that this vessel was overloaded when you self-saying that the scale at the wharf wasn't working? They have said that the scale at the wharf wasn't working. And then what the man name from the man who was there with them, I can't remember his name now. He was there from the enforcement agency, man, right? He said that he talked about the load line and all this everything. But it is clearly we clearly saw that the thing that when the vessel was ready to depart, it couldn't move because it was sitting on a sandbank. The load was so much it went down into the sandbank. So if the boat sits on the sandbank, you have to get wrong reading at the top if you're looking at some line. It took a long time for them to get the boat off and have it moving. Look, a long time. So I don't know where they are coming, who's going to give this evidence. But again, it is unfair and it is sad for these men to be charged with murder. And the minister or the ministers are still there. The owners of this boat are still there walking free. And the sailor who are employees of these people. I say employees, they are workers then. Get charged for murder, you know. Ghana can never be a real place. Ghana can never be a real place. Right? The men are charged, I say, with 72 counts of murder, as well as the murder of others unknown. You charge them with 72 counts of murder, as well as murder of persons unknown. How do you arrive at the final number of victims if the vessel is not recovered? And even when the vessel, or even if the vessel is recovered, it's going to be dubious to identify, because some people might have, I understand, some people, especially I hear they had babies and infants, you might never find them. You might never be able to arrive at an accurate figure. Forget about the ticket, because they have already established. Ejil, the Bishop Ejil has already said that he said 116, and then they discover that a lot of people been on the boat who did not pay, or who are not recorded as being on the boat. They pay, but who they pay? They pay. Some might have not paid, but you have far more people on that boat than they're accounting for. Far more, far many more. And then we say, can you remember one man who was listed and presumed dead? Right? Turn up. Say he didn't travel. So they had him listed, presumed dead. The man turned up and said, well, he been somewhere in the bush. He didn't get, when eventually you see the thing and he hear that he missing, he come and tell him, I died about. So how many more like that you can have? How many more like that do you have? Right? Then I have, let me try to go through it as quickly as I can. I understand too, they're saying that the government, it is being alleged, and all these things have to come out at a proper inquiry, that the government was responsible for the overloading of the vessel because they sent a lot of material. They load it up with things to go to Region 1 because they got some outreach there or something. That is what is being said. All of these things have to be investigated. All of these things have to be investigated properly, right? You know, I'm laughing, but this thing is serious. Eh? This is real serious, right? It's real serious. Let me give a little pause here and play out this one, Bob Marley. That's a part. Listen.
more than gold. We're jamming, 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 jamming. And we're jamming in the name of the Lord. We're jamming, 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 we're jamming. We're jamming right straight from your.
Yeah, we jamming Bob Marley. That was a little interlude there. We jamming Bob Marley. Let me come back to some of the Supt now. We had a protest, as I said last night, outside of Ejil's residence. I don't know if he was at home or what, but we had the people there. Compliments to those people who turn up and they protest. You got to look. Let me understand this thing clearly. You have to keep the pressure on because nothing else is gonna. Only pressure will cause them to do the right thing. You know, they are so bloody indecent that Ejil. It's pressure make Ejil stop appearing at the press conferences. I don't know if they're still getting press conference. Because I saw the last press conference I saw, Ejil wasn't there. They had Watts on the police force sit down there like ornament. You had Flores, I think his name from the thing. But they're just there is Mark Phillips sit down there and dancing with questions and so on. And note who the people they put into the front, you know. The president himself, the vice president, they have not gone out there publicly and interact with the media and so on over this incident, you know. They show lying Mark Phillips out there. Lying Mark Phillips. And Mark Phillips said that he don't think that they basically, the people in charge of the boat are to be blamed. I guess by now they're going to get people for withdraw that. He said so. Was the only sensible thing he said? He said so, right? Then, you know, last, they turn up, as I've said, they had the demonstration there last night. But true to farm, you know, true to farm. You had this, somebody, do I have it here? Let me see if I have it here. If I have it, I'm not sure if I have the tape. I had a tape, yeah. Yeah, listen, I think this is it. Look at this.
Yeah, they're trying to provoke something. You don't understand. You gotta get into churches to deal with it.
That's last night in front of the Bishop's home. See a black woman there come assaulting somebody, was taking out photographs and so on. Look, let me tell you something. I hope they don't leave these things there, you know. I hope they made a police complaint. Or even if the police don't want to do nothing, bring a private charge of assault against that woman. Because, you know, it's really sad. Look at the people who they're going to use. They are supposed to be, a couple of them, they scramble up, couple people who are supposed to be supportive of the government. Maybe they got a little contract for clean drain and sweep yard. So they felt compelled to come out to say they're defending the Bishop. Came out there and basically assaulting someone. But you know, they say monkey know which limb for jump on. They say monkey know which limb for jump on. Because if somebody now had retaliated and broke Shaja, they're going to hear the wrong. Then you're going to hear, oh, it's a woman, you shouldn't retaliate, you should report to the police. All other thing you're going to hear. She came there, somebody taking out a picture or a video, she slapped away the thing and so on. You are in a public place. And once you are in a public place, a public space, you ain't got no right to privacy in a public space. So even if you stoop down for wee and somebody take you out, you can't say they're wrong to take you out. It is in a public place. But I hope, because I understand that the person might be one of them who just run around and do errands and do favors for the people in power. But let me tell you something. As I said, monkey know which limb for jump on, you know. Monkey know which limb. I don't preach or condone violence, but you jump on the wrong person, next thing you know, your jaw, they get strapped up. You jump on the wrong person, you fling out your ass, you're boxing them. By now, your arm is strap up, your jaw is strap up. Right? Because some people were not going to take it that lightly. They're not going to take it that lightly. Right? So I don't know what is wrong with these people. I see it's a black woman, you know. It's a black woman. Maybe she got a little contract. Maybe she got a little soup. So she got to jump out there. Man, taking out photo. You're in a public place. And once you're in a public place, you have no right to privacy. Go home in your house if you want privacy. You can't be in the public place and people taking out your picture and then you come and say, you're thinking. If somebody, they broke your jaw now, then the police are running. Because I don't think the police took action against her. But I would say this to the person who was assaulted. Go make a report. Go make a report. Give a statement. And if they don't want to take action, you file your private action against them. You got to put these people in the place early, you know. Because I anticipate how things are going, you're going to have more protests and more of them will be emboldened to come and say they're assaulting people. As old as I be, let me tell you this. I used to be perhaps a little more aggressive when I was younger. But as old as I be, we had a birthday early this week. She didn't rush up to me like that. It's wire in your jaw. Wire. They got to strap up your jaw. I didn't care what happened afterward. Right? Because I would not have allowed myself to be violated like that. She rushed up. And you see, black woman, what's the matter with our people? What is the matter with our people? The people had a legitimate right to be there, so they're protesting. And you rushing out. Maybe because you get a little favor. You feel you're going to rush out and you're slapping away phone from somebody. If you want your picture taken, stay in your house. I suspect even if you're there in your house, your picture can be taken because you must gas and a hole and all other thing. But to come and to assault somebody because you rush up, yeah, you're right, Bal. You rush up, you get brush up. Right? But the monkey know which limb to jump on. Monkey know which limb to jump on. Right? And let me say this as I keep going down. You have a right for peaceful protest. Right? You have a right for peace. What we saw there was a peaceful protest. Peaceful protest. You're going to get police permission for peaceful protest. If you want to use a noisy instrument at the protest, yes. You have to get permission to use the noisy instrument, but not the protest. If you want to march, you have to get permission for a procession. Under the Public Order Act, you have to get permission for procession. And what is a procession? A procession is a walk or a march in a public place. So you want to march on the road, and the law is clear. If you want to hold a procession other than a funeral procession, you must get a permission from the Chief Officer of Police. And the Chief Officer of Police is the divisional commander in which the march is to be held. Let me repeat that. Any procession other than a funeral procession, right? So if it's a funeral procession, you get funeral, you don't have to get permission. The last say you don't have to get permission for that. Let me understand Public Order Act. This is things I learned. I used to lecture to police officers on this. So we're talking about the Public Order Act. You don't have to get, well, you don't have to get permission. You have to get permission to use a nice instrument. You ain't got to get permission to assemble. However, you can't block ingress, you can't block egress and that type of thing. But if you intend to process, and the procession means a walk in a public way, once you move off to walk, you have to get permission for the procession. You have to get permission for that. So if you're going to stand up there all the time and so on, you're blocking traffic, you're not, you don't get police permission for that. If you want to use a noisy instrument, well, you got to get permission to use the noisy instrument, such as loudaler, jukebox, and them type of thing. But just to assemble there, no permission is required. That is the Public Order Act. Something I used to lecture to policemen, officers. I used to lecture about in the days. So that we understand it. You have a right to peaceful protest. You have a right to come out and to peaceful protest. Once you're in black traffic, once you assault nobody, you come out, peaceful protest. So let me understand this thing, right? Let's understand this. Let me understand this too, right? When you come out, as I saw the thing there last night, as I said, I got permission from police, and what I saw there by members of the combined opposition, they didn't require any permission from the police. They required no permission. Because it wasn't a procession, and they were not using any nice instrument. such as loudela. If you want to use a noisy instrument, any loudela and so on, you got to get permission for that. You have to. If you want to march, which is a procession, because procession is a walk or a march in a public way, you have to get permission for that. You state your route and all this type of thing, and that is made to the Chief Officer of Police. And the Chief Officer of Police under the Public Order Act is not the commissioner, is the divisional commander in which the procession or march is to be held. So you make an application. But you know what happening now? You make an application to the Chief Officer of Police as in according to the Public Order Act. No commander can give permission, you know. Even the law says that you are the authority. No commander giving you permission. They will refer him to the commissioner. And the commissioner of police, let me say this one we get a Clifton cannot give permission for any possession by himself. He have to contact his political bosses. That is where we are. He has to contact his political bosses. And most likely they're going to tell you no, and then he can tell you no. That is where you are. We're in a sad state, you know, we're in a sad place. And the reason why we're in a sad place, because you have a lot of incompetent people. Because this is what I'm saying here. I show people like Ikin and MNO. These are things that you forget. Public Order Act, meetings and possession and all these type of things. These are things you got to know as a police commander. Because as a police commander, you have a lot of legal authority and responsibility. Processions and so on, you are the person, no commissioner of police. You are the person, you are the Chief Officer of Police according to the Public Order Act. They talk about the appropriate officer of police. You're the appropriate officer of police, You're the appropriate officer of police. So you're the one who has, no, I'm getting it wrong. You are the Chief Officer of Police. The appropriate officer of police is the police officer in charge of the station nearest to which any meeting is to be kept. That's the appropriate. And the Chief Officer of Police is the divisional commander. Y'all check the Public Order Act. Check it. I used to lecture on it back in the day, a little rusty now because I haven't read it for a long time. What I'm telling you is from memory. You have the appropriate officer of police and you have the chief officer. The appropriate officer of police is the person for the time being in charge of the police station nearest to which a meeting is to be held. You got to read these things, you know. I know we have a lot of police officers and them, even though they can't listen on the live, they will go back and listen. Read the Public Order Act. Read the Public Order Act so you know what the law says. You know what your authority is. So we understand it because, as I've said, there is no requirement in law for you to seek permission to hold a meeting. You gotta seek permission. You notify. You notify. That's what the law said. That is the word they use. You notify the appropriate officer. And they said the appropriate officer is the person in charge of the police division in which the meeting is to be held. You give a notification. I'm notifying you that I'll be keeping this meeting here and here. You have to seek permission to use a noisy instrument at the meeting, a loud public address system, but not permission to hold the meeting. You notify them that you hold the meeting. And then the law says that if more than one meeting is to be kept within a certain distance, then the chief officer can then regulate. He can even deny. For whatever reason, he can deny you. Right? But as other things, people applying for meeting, I've got the commissioner, I've got the minister, I've got all the way up the chain. The law doesn't say that. The law does not say that. Right? Yes, Gulliver, I miss CC because CC would have pulled out the book. When I say that now, CC would have pulled out the relevant act and he would have read verbatim from the act to educate these people. He would have done that. He would have done that. Now, time catching up with me, but I have so many things more to say, right? So many things more to say because we saw. I think I need to mention this one. You saw that the MV, the commissioner of inquiry, the commissioners were sworn in. I think it was yesterday they were sworn in. The people to the COI into this Barima, the tragedy, they were sworn in. And not surprising, the media was not invited. They didn't invite the media. These are the people who talk about transparency. They didn't invite the media. And I noted too that this is Dennis Shribal reporting yesterday that the five-member commission of inquiry into the sinking of the MV Barima earlier this month that unofficially claimed the lives of more than 100 persons was sworn in Thursday, that is yesterday. The media were not invited to the event that was held in the presence of the president and in the presence of President Irrational. Questions have been raised publicly about the impartiality of a number of the inquirers. They're just using fancy word. Questions have been raised about the number of the persons who are there in the commission. You call them inquirers in the commission. Questions have been raised about the impartiality of at least 3 of those persons, 3 of the 5. Right? Then it goes on to say, the secretary to the commission has not yet been named. So the rush ahead and the swearing, even though the person who's supposed to chair the commission could not be there in person. They swear apparently he attended virtually and was sworn in virtually. But they're saying they didn't even name the secretary yet. They didn't even name the location where the commission will sit. But they're rushing to try to calm things down. Because they know Guyanese get shallow memory. Right? Then they go on to say here, President Irrational, who appointed the commissioners, witnessed their swearing in before Chief Magistrate Judy Latchman. Chairman of the Commission of Inquiry, Justice Godfrey Phillips Smith, took the oath of office virtually. So they want to rush to this thing so much that the chairman of the commission couldn't be there in person. So they swore him in virtually, right? Then they said Dr. Ali hailed the independence of the panel of inquirers who are experts in several facets of maritime history. Then, quote, the commission meets the highest benchmark of independence, impartiality, and objectivity. Who determines that, Mr. President? Who determines the independence, impartiality, and objectivity? It is done being floated around that one of the commissioners, the man they're saying, but all nonetheless they jump out and say all the people are foreigners. Well, they could have been. One man gets citizenship. One man. I'm going to tell you all about it, if not today, some other time. One man is a Guyanese. He operates some facility at the old Pegasus Hotel there. Some restaurant, some iron restaurant as well. He operates there. So you talk about impartiality. What are you talking about? Then they go on to say, well, you know, this objectivity is saying that Guyana deserves a full, fair, and impartial account of what and why, that is what they're saying, what and why occurred, and to ensure that, quote, such a tragedy is never repeated. Well, the way to make sure that such a tragedy is not repeated is to make sure that y'all hold on and go the thing there. Shouldn't run government. That is the way to make sure it never happens. The president promised that money and other resources would be provided to the commission. He quoted there saying, I wish to assure that the government will provide the commission with the administrative, technical, financial, and logistical support necessary for an effective discharge of its mandate. Every resource required to facilitate a thorough, professional, independent inquiry will be made available. That is what the president said. Now, if you're going to do that, Mr. President, if this commission has any credibility, one of the first things you got to demand is that you float the boat. That you float the boat so that people can examine, because allegations are made that an engine failed. The bishop said no. Well, the only way you can know that is by bringing up the boat and have the experts to examine. Because even if the 2 surviving crew members were to give us story, I'm going to believe them. And how things going now that they're charged, I can't see them giving no evidence. You're going to summon them to the Commission of Inquiry when you have a yard start. But any lawyer worth his salt, including a lawyer like James Bond, can tell them to take the 5th or whatever amendment. Yes, and I have nothing to say. I have absolutely nothing to say. Also, you're going to get to the bottom of this. You don't want to get to the bottom, because if you were to get to the bottom of this disaster, many heads in the government will roll. Many heads in government will roll. So therefore, this government, this corrupt government that we have, they call it PPP civic government, and want to get to the bottom of this. something superficial, the people gonna come up with some report. Mind you, I don't know of the who the commissioners are, so it will be unfair. I read a little. It will be unfair to me to pronounce on their competence and their credibility, and I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. But I'm saying that based on what we have seen, based on the little research that I have done, it will look good, because at least 3 of them seem to have been compromised. The man who they say from some places say, but the man is a naturalized Guyanese, one of them. So even though Nandalal and them they jump out and tell you, but these people are from outside, one is a naturalized Guyanese, and I understand the man get the nationality in labor time. You get it in labor time, which means he might very well believe that he owes the government a favor. He might very well believe that he owes the government a favor, right? Then they go on to say here, the broad terms of reference requiring the commission to determine the facts, examine the cause and contributing factors, evaluate compliance with applicable laws and operational standards, assess the effectiveness of the search, rescue, and recovery operations, and identify any shortcomings or failures, and recommend reform necessary to strengthen the safety and resilience of our maritime transporting system. The nation awaits such report. This is quote, the nation awaits such report. The families who have suffered unimaginable loss awaits these answers. The president said, of the estimated 179 passengers and crew who were aboard the MV Barima, 72 bodies were recovered. 30 could not be accounted for, and 76 were rescued. The captain, chief mate, and Transport and Office Department goods superintendent have since been charged with murder. Prime Minister Mark Phillips, Prime Minister Gagi handle, Prime Minister Mark Lyon Phillips, has said he did not believe there was a deliberate effort to kill anyone. Well, let me tell Mark Phillips might to know this, because Ian read in this area. Well, in some cases, they will tell you there got to be a deliberate effort, because if out of gross negligence, and how they can prove that? If out of gross negligence you cause the life of someone, you might be criminally liable. But where would the gross negligence in this case lie? The boat is owned by the government. So if you're talking about gross negligence, the gross negligence has to lie with the government of Guyana. Right? That's a chairman of the inquiry, Justice Godfrey Phillips Smith of Belize, CARICOM high-level representative for law and criminal justice, and the ad hoc justice of the Eastern Caribbean Court of Appeal. That's the background again. Then you have Dr. Andre Jesse Akunjisi of Poland, naval architect and maritime engineer, who has advised on investigations into several major maritime disasters. Captain Amada Fahuda, senior maritime surveyor and compliance auditor with the Maritime Authority of Jamaica. Miss Naria Don Alfonso of Trinidad and Tobago, attorney at law with expertise in admiralty and maritime law. And Rear Marshal retired Aidan Pitchard of Trinidad and Tobago, a distinguished professional with decades of experience in maritime operations and maritime security. So the man who was talking about this, Captain Amada Fauda, F-A-U-D-A, senior maritime surveyor. The man is a naturalized, they say the man is a naturalized Guyanese. The man got the Guyanese passport and so in labor time. He operates, it is alleged that he operates a facility out of the old Pegasus Hotel, some fancy restaurant and so on there. So what are they telling us? What are they telling us? And I'm sure if when you investigate further, you're going to find, because I understand that the female here has a professional relationship with lawyer offices in this in Guyana, and they might have been the one who recommended her to the president. Because I said, let me understand this thing. They come, the president run out in labor time, as we would say in Guyana, to name these people. What type of due diligence would have been done? These are people who would have been recommended to them, and they rush out because they want to get ahead, or they want to appear to get ahead. They rush out and say, well, these people are going to form the Commission of Inquiry. So they didn't even name the secretary. They didn't even name nothing else. So much so that they rushed to the swearing yesterday. The man who is supposed to be the head of this thing couldn't be here in person, so they have to swear in virtually. That is how they're going with breakneck speed, trying to change the narrative, breakneck speed. What I'm saying, as I seek to close this afternoon, as I said, this is no done any like. Gotta come back on this. Because this thing is so fluid, more information gonna come. I am saying that one of the first demands that must be made is a demand, not a request, is for the boat to be brought up so that people can get proper closure with all those bodies that are suspected to be trapped there. They say about 30. My information and based on what I am hearing, that boat had close to well over 200 people. They're using a figure of 100 and something. But my information is that they had, on the boat itself, according to the evidence, it had walking space. People lay down all over. And it is sad how they're treating our Amerindian brothers. It is sad. They don't treat them like if they're people and citizens deserve of humane and proper treatment. They pack the boat with them. They pack the boat with items going to Region 1 for some outreach they're supposed to have. All of that they did. And then what? They're trying to scapegoat the 2 sailors and the loading superintendent or whatever it is. This man was not on the boat, you know. Let me understand this thing clearly. If you are telling us, let me go to the sailor, the captain and the force mate or whoever he was. You're charging them for murder. So you're suggesting that these men might have been suicidal. It's only by the grace of God, these men survive. And then, you know, they got some people, if you got a scholarship in jackassery, they're going to win. If you got a scholarship in jackassery, because a man wants to say, well, the captain, let me try to put it a little decently, that the captain is always responsible. That might be so in theory. That might be so in theory. But when the boat sets out on a 24-hour journey, are you suggesting to me that the captain has to be there physically present all the time to captain the boat? At some stage, he must hand over to someone. He cannot be expected to be there physically at the wheel or whatever you call it for 24 hours. He cannot, because it's not a case where the boat set out on a 10-hour journey or 5-hour journey, and then for some reason the time was extended. It's a case where the journey takes over 24 hours. And that is if the boat is working at peak. And we learned that it didn't work in at peak because engine broke down. So you're going to take a longer time. And you want to suggest that the captain, right, at some stage is not entitled to have a rest. You're suggesting to me that the captain deliberately set out to kill his colleagues who were on board? Murder. We talk about murder, talk about malice aforethought. That's what they taught me in training school. Malice aforethought. You set out to kill. But we know that there's some exceptions. But in this case, it can't be an exception. So you can prove that the captain and this other man who was charged were suicidal. Yeah, that's what you're going to prove. The people barely survive. I don't know how they survive. Maybe at some stage they're going to tell the story. I don't know how they survive. But to suggest that these men murdered, as the DPP is suggesting, that these men murdered, because murder got to get mens rea, you know. They state of mind, they set out to kill. DPP is alleging that this is no accident. She's suggesting, the DPP, Shalimar Ali Haq, is suggesting that this is no accident. That they're charged with murder. And if you're charged with murder, you're saying that they set out to kill. Or I think the lies will tell you, or the action of them was so reckless. And not one man, you know, not the captain, the next man. You're suggesting that the action was so reckless that this resulted in the death of all of these people. Yeah, there is a minister of our Marine Affairs, Doreen, who is silent. The minister, some Brown or something like that, the minister name. I know the minister must be molt if you know about board and turn green or something like that. Yeah, you gather. Can you imagine that? You imagine that? You're suggesting that maybe the captain and these people on the boat were suicidal? The blasted boat belongs to the government. And there's no way the government, through the ministry, through one Ejil, Quarter Jill, and in Dal or whatever you name, can escape culpability vicariously or otherwise. They can't. And I would hope that the protest we saw there last night is not a one-off. I will hope so. It is not a one-off. Comrade, you have to up the ante. You have to up the ante. Everywhere they go, they should be met by people protesting. Everywhere they go, they must be met by people protesting. And I'm not talking about violence, you know. So that don't get me wrong, because I know they're listening. But every place, Ejil, in Dar, and other them go, the president, Mark Phillips, Lion Mark Phillips, every place they go, they should be met by protests. Everywhere. There's a whole set of people dead. Can't be business as usual. Cannot. And it should not be allowed to be that. Even though they believe, and most of the people who die are indigenous people, people for whom they have little or no respect. They have little or no respect for those people. To have them traveling in conditions like that. The boat that they acquired, the 2 boats that they acquired for the area, they got them as party boat. Big sporting, it's St. James got the boat. You have boats saying, oh, we got the boat. We got a whole boat cruise and that sort of thing. And people suffering. Look at the condition of that boat that we saw at some stage. Amok all over the place. People lying on the floor. Look how they're treating people. And my information is, let me say this. Let me say this. My information is that the system that they had at the place where the boat departed, that you had a lot of families, maybe Venezuelan, more than one Venezuelan families who were on the boat, who might not have been properly accounted for. So it's not a case where you say you get manifest with them, because we already saw that the manifest was wrong. So a lot of people have, look, I have heard some estimates of the number of people. God, they said the boat the jump pack. The boat with people, you know. I'm not talking about the materials that they were carrying, the roller, and all them type of thing. With people. People are estimating well over 200. And they're suggesting that is why maybe they don't want the boat to be lifted. Because if the boat is lifted, you might very well find the evidence to suggest, to confirm how many people were on that boat. Way in excess of what they are telling us, this 170 something. The bishop started 133 this year. And people are saying that based on the evidence, it might well have been over 200 persons on that boat. And maybe that is one of the reasons why they don't want this boat to be surfaced, because if they bring it up, you're going to get more evidence, skulls and bodies and all sort of things. People locked in cabins and all that. The sailors, they're going to find all them things. They don't want that. So they also will tell you about this line, Mark Phillips tell you, oh, we can consult with the people. They're giving them form for sign. As I say, well, we don't want the boat to be lifted. Now you charge men for murder. You charge men with murder. How in heaven's name you're going to decide you don't want to lift this vessel, which should be a key piece of evidence in this trial. How you don't want this thing to be lifted? How do you want whatever means? Because let me understand that in the world today, there is not a big, if you get the right company and so on, there's not a big job for them. No big job to lift that. I remember reading some time ago this submarine cursed, a Russian submarine, sank in deep water. Submarine sank in deep water, and months after the submarine was lifted, some Dutch company or something brought it up, and all the bodies. Well, of course, that part of the water cold, so the bodies might have been preserved and so on. Lift the boat. Let me see how many people. The families want closure. The families want closure. So when you bring it up, you're able to do DNA and all them everything to know who are the relatives and so on. Families want closure, but y'all ice past the indigenous people. The ice past the indigenous people. So you're gonna tell them, oh, we can just do a memorial and then trying to get people to sign, say what they want. The thing is a crime scene based on you. Come in and charged with murder. And therefore, you should make every effort to bring it up. People talking about the engine not working. People talking about the oil of the vessel not good. All of those things have to be critical part of any evidence in a murder trial. Critical charge, the DPP said murder. The DPP said murder. And disclosures are to be made on Monday, I think the 5th, or sometime soon, the 3rd or the 5th, disclosure are to be made. And for you students, when we talk about disclosure, we're saying that the state, the prosecution, has to now hand over the evidence that they have, the statements that they have, what evidence they intend to use, to the defense. That is set for sometime soon. But I like my research. And when I looked at the research, because this goes to the Charity Magistrate Court, I understand that there's somebody telling me the 3rd. The 3rd is when? Tomorrow is the 4th, so the 3rd is Monday. Trust me, you're going to hear them come and say they ain't ready. Even though they file charges of murder, capital offense, murder, they rush and file charges. When the matter comes up on the 3rd, chances are that they're going to say, well, they're not ready. Well, you're ready. You must have statements. Give you whatever statements you have. Give us the statements that you have. Right? Give us the statements. But they rush out, charged with murder. And then what's going to happen now? They come up for disclosure, where you're supposed to hand over copies of all statements that are to be used to the defense so they can prepare. They're going to see us at the magic. They're going to hear them come there and say, they're not ready. They're not ready. I know I've done my research, and my research is suggesting that this is supposed to come up at the Charity Magistrate Court. And I wanted to know who is the magistrate at the Charity Magistrate Court. And a name has been mentioned. A name has been mentioned. And if there is a name, oh my God, they know about. Because there's a man who was not so long ago was a prosecutor with Soku. That is the man, if it is true, never call his name, I did the research, if it is true, that is the man who, in the case that we had, CC, myself, and all others were charged with this thing charged with the thing relating to the standing order review. Remember the charge all of we, whole set of people. That's the man who then was working with the state. He was working with Soku. And that's the man who brought legal action against the magistrate when the magistrate refused to accept certain evidence. That's the same man. That's the same man, I understand, who, I don't know if he's something I call his name, but I do the research. When he been at West Coast Barbies, they got him like Tiddlylick. Let me tell you this. I never know what was or what is Tiddlylick. But I remember as a little police in the TSU, you had a man named Daco Cummins. 5798 Cummins. 579 or 8, he used to say no more. He used to say you get it like Tiddlylick. In other words, you get something passing from hand to hand to hand to hand. This man, they get like Tiddlylick. Because once they say he been West Coast Barbies, and the lawyers they complain about him because he brandish gun and so on. Then he been Bartica. Then he did all over the place. He been serving for the East Bank now. I was surprised to hear he just serving for the Essequibo Coast. They got it like Tiddlylick. Daco said Tiddlylick is something apart from hand to hand, all over the place. They get it. So let me see what's going to happen, because I would not be surprised if when the matter comes up on the 3rd, they get 1 or 2 statements. Remember, you're charged with murder, You're charged with murder. You now have to do your disclosure, right? You have to give statements. In case you all know, I'll go a little overtime this afternoon. I'll be able to Friday afternoon. You have to disclosure now. So all the statements that you have, all the evidence that you have to hand over to the defense so they can present the case. All. They got to present the case. You have to give them so they can prepare. I am willing to wager that when the 3rd comes, you're going to hear Asata Salawala. Imagine the DPP saw enough statements and found that there's sufficient evidence to charge these men with the capital offense of murder. And I am willing to bet that when the matter comes up next, and they're supposed to be able to give statements to the defense, you're going to hear Salawala. you're going to hear a lot of salawala. You think it's too wicked and dirty and stink? Wicked, stink, and dirty. That is what they are. But let me see where it will go. As I say again, I am hoping that they establish, and this is the family, and these people get advice and have established a defense funds, man. A defense fund, so that people can contribute. Either use all the means available. Zelle, MMG, PayPal, whatever you have, man. Use. Because this is an injustice. To rush out and charge these men with murder under those circumstances and then you get a bishop, a jail, and in there, who are the ministers responsible for that department? They're still on the job. They both then belong to the captain and these men. What happened to the concept of vicarious responsibility, vicarious liability? How the minister with direct responsible for that portfolio, how come he ain't responsible? And let me play y'all this one too. Y'all ain't going nowhere yet. Don't go and get a couple more things. Listen to this one. Listen to this one. This is the sweetest of all. Listen to this.
Well, on Monday when we met at the Public Accounts Committee, before the media was invited inside, as a member of the Public Accounts Committee, I asked Mr. Patterson to recuse himself until he clears the air on these matters, because how could we be asking public officers to give account for audit queries and mismanagement of resources, and the person who's presiding over that committee himself is on trial in the public, and he hasn't cleared the air because of these two things? Mr. Patterson must do the decent thing. And I'm calling on him to do the decent thing. Resign as chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. Remove yourself from being chairman of the Public Accounts Committee.
That is Ejil. Quarter Jill. That is Ejil. Calling on Patterson to remove himself from the Public Accounts Committee. Right? Now nobody ain't dead, you know. Under his watch now, you have at least, they said, over 100 people have died on this watch. And he ain't removing himself from the position of the minister. He is not removing himself, and that is a man who they tell you he's a bishop. He's a man of God. Which God he's serving? Any decent person under these circumstances would have said, well, look, the least I can do, let me take some leave. You're waiting for the president tell you nothing. You tell Mr. President, as a man of God, I really can't sit here in all good conscience and think. I am going to demit office. And well, not temporary, should not demit office temporary, should go. Go, Jill, go on, go along. Go your way, man. And bring when you say go along your way, who are the people who would sit in a church and say they're listening to this man? And not only with this matter, with other matters. Who are the people who will sit in a church and say they listen to you? I remember as a little boy, they tell you, when you see people like he, they say if a man could kick a dog in church, service over. Y'all know that? Y'all know the phrase? And you know, he's a countryman, I know a lot of these things. They say if a man could kick a dog in church, service done. So that's what you have. Ejil, the bishop, the bishop, Ejil. They're down there. And they talk about decency. How can you be decent and sit there, all them people, them that dead, under your watch as the ministry? Under your watch. And you tell me at least you can decide that you're going to step. Tell the president. President can't order you to stay. The president cannot order you to stay. You'll tell you the man, you're supposed to be a man of the cloth. All you got to tell the president, I am taking my leave until this matter has been resolved. And if I were the president, I say, all right, take your leave until this government turn in. That is what I would have told him. That is what I would have told him. Folks, let me wind down, because I'm in the mood this afternoon. I'm in the mood, but I know it's Friday, and I know you have other stuff to do. So, but this is a matter that we have to watch very carefully, because they are. Let me tell you what's going on, right? They're also to fix. They also was set up a commission of inquiry. They didn't even name the secretary and all these people. But when they name the secretary, and they name the other people. Look to see who they will name. They're going to find another Keoma Griffith, right? A soup drinker. You know, when they had the market on fire, they found Keoma Griffith as the attorney for the commission. And then he sought to place the blame on the fire service. So they're going to find someone like Seki. Look to see who will find as the secretary. Look to see who can find as secretary. Look to see what type of arrangement they will make to get those persons who were victims, survivors, to come and to give evidence, or whether they are going to be traveling. Because in a case like this, right, when the time comes, you have to go to some place closer. Maybe all these people live on the Essequibo, in the Pomeroon and so on. Maybe you want to go there for a few days at a location to make sure it is easier for these people to come and to give evidence. But a lot of them men want people to give evidence. I'm still waiting to see the terms of reference of the commission published. And there you're going to get another hint as to what they intend to do, because the commission is going to operate within the terms. And if the terms are restricted, you're going to get a restricted report. That is what you are going to get. So let me see, because as I've said, the also swearing, some of the, well, all of the members, one virtually, and the others here. Look, I'm going to investigate further about the connection with some of them and to the government, despite what they want to say. At least 3 of them are tainted by association, at least 3. At least 3 of those persons who were on the COI. So let's see where that will go. But at the end of the day, I am saying that we Guyanese have to keep our eyes open, keep our eyes on the ball. Keep our eyes on the ball. I said this to the members who are there demonstrating. It cannot be a one-off. Cannot be a one-off. It can't be a one location. You're supposed to be able to galvanize enough persons to go and to make your voices heard. Wherever they live, wherever there's work, you got to go. And be peaceful. You don't have to break the law. The law, the Constitution allows you to guarantees you peaceful assembly. So I'm not advocating for anyone to break the law, but I'm advocating for you to go and publicly make your concerns known. Write in the newspaper, contact international organizations. You got to widen this thing. You know, I am going to university. I've been to university, yes, still like them. And when you talk about conflict management, we had a book by a man named E. Snat Snyder, tells you about conflict management, how to manage conflict. This one got to be widened. This conflict here in relation to the sinking of this vessel, the conflict has to be widened. And you widen a conflict by bringing other agencies on board. All the embassies, you have to write. International organizations, you have to write. That is what you have to do. You have to petition these people. That's the only thing, apart from the demonstrations that you will hold in Guyana. That is what you got to do. You have to keep your feet on the throttle. Don't ease. Don't ease, because that's what they're doing, you know. They're going to play rope-a-dope. They go in the corner. They go into a little cover-up position, and they're waiting for you to slug and slug and slug. And unfortunately, many times when we slug, we only slug for a couple of days, and then they come out. Don't let it happen. Those dead bodies owe us all that. Don't give up. Don't give up. Right? What more do I have to play before I bow out? Right? I have one here to play. Let me play this one here. And then we're going to take our leave. Of course, before I do that, the numbers are here for you to donate. Those of you who are in a position to donate, the numbers are there for you to donate. Let me play this one here. My selector. I send my selector. Oh, yeah. Operator, you have to turn on the E. My selector, turn on the E. Play rubber dubber, me say turn on the E. You play, don't play, just say turn on the E. Say operator, me say turn on the E.
My selector turn on the heat. Oh star, let go the rhythm make it go. My selector, me say oh star, let go the rhythm make it go. My selector, I want to know how the dance it's so nice. Want to know how the dance it's so rum. Want to know how the dance it's so sweet. Want to know how the dance it's so jump. Say operator, it my turn on the heat. My selector, I turn on the heat. Say operator, it my turn on the heat. And it my turn on the heat. I want to know all the girl them so trash. Want to know all the girl them so nice. Want to know all the dread them trash. And it's a on it on the people's choice. Operator, it my turn on the heat. My selector, I turn on the heat. Say operator, it my turn on the heat. My selector, I turn on the heat. Yes, dad, let go the music, make it play. My selector, they say oh star, let go the music, make it play. Say operator, I miss a 3 furlong, miss a turn on the heat. 5 furlong, miss a turn on the heat. 7 furlong, miss a turn on the heat. Want you to know this I don't swell sweet. Operator, miss a turn on the heat. My selector, I turn on the heat. Say operator, miss a turn on the heat. My selector, I turn on the heat. Oh, oh, I said my selector, said I like how you play. Oh, oh, well, my selector, no guy test. Want you to know reggae music are the best. Listen to me people, no guy test. Want you to know reggae music are the best. Now listen to me people, yeah. Operator, me say turn on the heat. My selector, turn on the heat. Say operator, me say turn on the heat. And they cut on, you well sweet. I want to know all the girl them trash. Want to know all the girl them sweet. Want to know all the dance well ram. Want to know all the dance well nice. Oh star, let go the music make it go. My selector, I said oh star, let go the music make it go. Oh yeah.
Turn up the heat, turn up the heat. And then we get the local Cliff. Let me get Cliff, the local man, you know. Listen to this one.
Hey, who must go? Bethel must go. Kadibai come alive to the nation. Who must go? Bethel must go. Square pegging wrong, bully can't fit the position. Who must go? Bethel must go. Got a lot of people under frustration. Who must go? Bethel must go. I will lock you up in at the station. Now me ask the question how we sleep at night. Great big bishop got the whole place blind. Minister of works is not getting it right. It's time we move the peasant from out of his sight. Lie said the boat was not overload. And everybody knows said the boat overload. The great big bishop not getting it good. I hope he get some lash with a wood. Hey, who must go? Bethel must go. Kadibai come alive to the nation. Who must go? Bethel must go. Square pegging wrong, bully can't fit the position. Who must go? Bethel must go. Got the people under frustration. Who must go? Time will lock you up in the street. Well, Mark Phillip is a blood clot puppet. Another Sam blinds black people regret. When he open his mouth is like a sling breath. He would not got life, everything is dead. Lie to the media and he answer like a ass. Some make if you know the boy not got class. When me look on the face, me see a black charandas. Prime Minister use a cross. Hey, who must go? Bethel must go. Kadibai come alive to the nation. Who must go? Bethel must go. Way pegging wrong, only can't fit the position. Who must go? Bethel must go. Now the people under frustration. Who must go? Bethel must go. It's time we lock you up in the station. Now the government want to bribe the Amerindian. Attack how them love to spend so much million. We better them life and put them in a good position. Politics apply them now and lose the million. If the Amerindian them fall for the trick, then the two souls want a holy licks and put them on grass and stone them with bricks. Government is sick. Hey, who must go? Bethel must go.
That must be a top tune. Who must go? Ejil must go. Who must go? Ejil. I hope they get a song on the well. let me warn y'all, if you go on and demonstrate or so on, and you gotta get permission for playing nice instrument and so on. But if you sing it, got some big mouth people that who must go, a jail must go. Who must go, a jail must go. Folks, it's time for me to go to. We had a good afternoon, I think so. Pass on a lot of information and so on. I mean, encourage you. The numbers are there. I don't have to tell you. The numbers are there. Let me say this. This is we used to play where we go, no done as you like. This is no done as you like. I can keep a tip. Keep doing the research, bring information to your attention. Right? I am going to do that. All I ask for you to do is to subscribe and follow, share, make sure that the channel becomes even more popular. Let me make sure. I want to take this opportunity to wish you a wonderful weekend. You know, today is Friday afternoon. If you take your tubs, don't get too drunk. Disaster after disaster, fire, a road accident, all kind of thing you're having in this place. Can you imagine this boat tragedy? Well over 100, and I can't tell you the thing was so not properly run. And who you got to blame? If you have a government department, you have ministers in charge of that department, and things gone wrong where all these many people die. How come the ministers are not responsible? How come they're still sitting in office when 3 men are sitting in the prison right now? How come? And you tell me we can sit down, we as Guyanese, and even people in the diaspora, we can sit down and allow this. We should be demonstrating. We got to make our voice known all over the world about this, what's going on here, all over, especially the fact that they have 3 men. I'm not saying that they're innocent. I am not saying about any charge against these 3 men must be premature. Must be premature. The boat can come up. You know how many people dead. You know, you don't even get statements from everybody, and you're charging these people with murder of all charges. Murder. In other words, they intended to kill these people. They were suicidal because it's only by the grace of God make they survive. Their colleagues are there. They are mourning for their colleagues. And you tell me that murder charge is the appropriate charge, all because you have a wicked director of public prosecutions. And it's supposed to be, to use somebody word, who they say, oh, Dennis Shabral, devout. Supposed to be a devout Muslim. What devout about that? You think wherever eternity is to them, you think they're going to enjoy it? Whether it's heaven or wherever they call them? They have a rot in hell or wherever, whatever is the equivalent, because they're wicked, stink, and dirty. Right? They're wicked, stink, and dirty. And I say it without any fear of a reservation or any fear of contradiction. Folks, you've had a long afternoon, almost 3 hours, and it's time for me to allow you to go and do whatever you